Welcome back to Newsroom. For today's Business Matters, we have with us Don Ma here to discuss. Don, how are you today?
I'm doing well.
Talk business to us.
Okay, well, let me get right into it then. So today I'm talking about a few topics here, and I wanted to stay here first, on the road that is. Auto safety regulators have closed one of two investigations into General Motors' Cruise self-driving electric vehicles, and this comes after the company agreed to do a recall. Now, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says in documents posted on its website today that the probe began in December of 2022, and that was after the agency received reports of inappropriate hard braking and complete stops by Cruise vehicles. Now, Cruise agreed to recall all of its robo-taxis on August 9th of this year for unexpected braking, and the company would fix the problem with the software update. In its decision to close the probe, NHTSA said that the updates reduced the risk of unexpected braking with improvements to perception, prediction, and planning. The agency is still investigating reports that Cruise vehicles encroached on pedestrians present in or entering roadways, including crosswalks. Next, the number of Americans applying for unemployment benefits rose slightly last week. The Labor Department said jobless claims rose 4,000 to a total of 232,000, and that's for the week ending August 17th. So the latest data should continue to ease concerns about the rapid deterioration of the labor market. The Federal Reserve is closely monitoring the situation as layoffs remain low, but hiring has also slowed down. The Fed is expected to begin cutting rates starting next month in September. As well, Verizon has unveiled its latest subscription bundle, which is Netflix and NFL Plus Premium. So the offer starts today, and Verizon says it can save its customers nearly $300 a year. Verizon is going to offer 12 months of Netflix premium plan for free to customers who purchase 1 year of the National Football League's exclusive premium streaming service. As well, looking ahead, tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, Jackson Hole, Wyoming, will be the epicenter of the U.S. economy. And that's when Fed Chair Jerome Powell is set to give his keynote address at an annual summit. Anticipation is high, especially with recent data reinforcing expectations for a rate cut in September, and the Fed has released minutes from its July policy meeting, which suggest officials are strongly leaning toward a cut, and this is further supported by new signs of a cooling labor market. The Bureau of Labor Statistics recently revised down its annual payroll numbers, marking the steepest preliminary downward revision since the global financial crisis. Now in Canada, two largest railroads having halted. A labor dispute has stranded thousands of supply-carrying train cars with potential harm for the U.S. economy. Here's that story.
Thousands of rail cars stopped dead in their tracks, carrying essential goods such as petroleum products, cars, car parts, grain, timber, chemicals, and fertilizer. Economists warn it could cost the U.S. and Canadian economies billions of dollars. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says he's taking it very seriously.
And that's something that is an impact right across the country, from workers to businesses to farmers to consumers.
Nice, thank you.
A labor dispute caused the shutdown. Labor union Teamsters Canada was unable to finalize a contract with Canada's two biggest railway companies, so the companies told 9,000 workers to stay home.
CN Rail has locked its employees out, so we're just here for an information picket line.
Rail worker Joel says he believes they'll reach a deal.
We want to go back to work, and we're hoping both the company and our negotiating team can get a deal. We've been on strike in the past, yes. And we've always got to a deal, and I'm confident we'll get to a deal. All we want to do is go back to work.
Teamsters Canada says the two parties are far apart. It says the railway companies are willing to compromise rail safety and tear families apart to earn an extra buck. One of the railroads, Canadian National, says the Teamsters have not shown any desire to reach a deal. The other railroad, CPKC, says the Teamsters keep making unrealistic demands that would impair the railway. The two companies own 80% of Canada's railways. The American Farm Bureau Federation says the stoppage could jeopardize crop production. It says American farmers depend on Canadian agricultural products. This could seriously lower food supply, raising prices even more.
Meanwhile, housing demand in the U.S. improved in July after declining for months, and this as Americans continue to face rising home prices. The National Association of Realtors saying that sales of previously owned homes grew 1.3% in July from the month before, and that pushed the seasonally adjusted annual rate to nearly 4 million home sales. So July's figures broke a 4-month streak of declining sales, but year over year, sales were down 2.5% in July from 2023. The National Association of Realtors says that despite the modest gain, home sales are still a bit sluggish here. Meanwhile, July saw the 13th month in a row of year-over-year home increases. Many Americans still finding the current housing market, a bit unaffordable, if you will. Home prices, remain high along with mortgage rates as well. Many are hoping that the Federal Reserve will cut their prime lending rate in September to help address the issue. With a 7-Eleven buyout offer on the table, fans of the convenience store are a little anxious. The Japanese firm 7&I owns the convenience store chain, offering fresh foods like rice balls, for example, and that's driving its popularity and profitability in Japan. In Japan, 7-Elevens have about a 30% operating margin, according to data. So it is drastically less overseas. Fresh food is seen as a key to fixing low profitability in the U.S. 7&I has introduced more than 200 food items to its U.S. stores, some distinctively Japanese. 7-Eleven enthusiasts are now concerned a buyout by a Canadian firm could move the store's focus from fresh, high-quality Japanese-style food. Okay, let me just mention Walmart as well today. Is teaming up with Burger King. The retailer will be serving up discounted meal benefits to its members. The company said that the promotions will include 25% off any digital order every day at Burger King, and starting in September, a free Whopper burger every 3 months with any purchase at Burger King, all for Walmart Plus members. And this is an effort to make Walmart services more attractive and compete with Amazon's Prime. The Walmart Plus membership has digital and in-store benefits like free shipping with no minimum order, and it includes a subscription to Paramount Plus as well. So this week, the Harris campaign endorsed a list of tax hikes originally proposed by the Biden administration. Now, the new taxes would give an estimated $5 trillion to the federal government over 10 years. Now, among them is a tax on unrealized capital gains for individuals worth $100 million over that amount. And this is where you would be taxed on your investment even before you have sold and made a profit on them. Now joining me is Vijay Marolia, Chief Investment Officer at Regal Point Capital. Now, Vijay, how are you doing today?
Fantastic, and yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you very much. So to start off, just give us a real easy understanding of how this tax works.
Well, let's start with capital gains tax. It basically is taxed on investment, and usually it's long-term investment. And if you think about what taxes do, taxes tend to act like a punishment. They disincentivize behavior. So actually, I think that it's a really bad idea. And regardless of the rate of the capital gains tax, to try to tax something that's unrealized is actually kind of ridiculous. And the reason why I say that is because, first of all, who's going to value the asset? All right. So valuation, the whole reason why people like me have a job is because there's a difference between price, which is absolute, and value, which is very relative. And so who is going to decide the valuations? I mean, right now, they think that the Mar-a-Lago is worth less than $16 million. So I think it's a little bit ludicrous.
Yeah, okay, I want to comment on that as well. But first, maybe you can answer this. It's only going to target people with over $100 million in assets or worth. So, I mean, is this such a big deal?
It's a huge deal because if you think about it, most of the time, your boss is not poorer than you. And so let's keep in mind that this is going to basically it's going to cause a fire sale. It's going to cause a depression. It's going to cause more than a recession. I think it has zero chance of going through because there are some people, especially the donors in the Democratic Party, that actually do know how to do math. And so I think it's unworkable, regardless of what level you put it on. Because think about it. So where are they going to get that money from? Wealthy people don't have that money sitting in cash. That's ludicrous. Most currency is digital already. All Bitcoin did is create the blockchain, which I think is genius. But look, most money is already digital. The cash, the coins that we think of as money, that's 3% of the total money supply. Total money supply has gone up by like 40, 50%. So the real problem is inflation. And the real problem that consumers are having is affording everything, right? Especially the cost of shelter, food, energy, so on and so forth. So I think that this is dead on arrival.
So what do you say to the advocates of this tax who argue that these wealthy people, I mean, they're avoiding taxes, so putting this tax on them will sort of level the playing field because you know how the situation is with wealthy people. They pay very little tax.
Well, there are more than one type of tax, okay? Because there's not just a capital gains tax, there's an income tax, there's a sales tax, there's a payroll tax. There is a lot of tax. And I'm lucky enough or wise enough to live in a state that has no state income tax. But the problem isn't the tax. Wealthy people are wealthy because they are providing valuable services to society, okay? The beauty of the free market system is someone like my father who came to this country at age 19 with nothing except hard work, determination, and energy, right? And now he has created so many hundreds of jobs. He's paid millions of dollars in taxes. My sister is an attorney. I'm doing pretty good. And, this is just the beginning. And there's millions of people like that. So the problem is the government is spending too much money. If it was easy to legislate wealth, then we would have already done it. This is a terrible idea, I must say.
Okay, final question here, and we have about 30 seconds. Is it not true that hedge funds charge performance fees? I mean, and they don't refund them, right? If the value of the portfolio falls the following year, is this not similar to a tax on unrealized gains?
Well, first of all, hedge funds, there's so many different ones with so many different fees. And you are correct that most of the time they do not refund performance fees, just like we don't get a refund when our government makes a mistake. I think that there's 40 billion unaccounted for with Ukraine. I think the Pentagon hasn't submitted their financials in quite some time. I think that the fraud in Medicare, Social Security, which is off balance sheet liabilities. So that's on top of the $35 trillion that we already owe. So listen, we can point fingers at anybody, but the government is supposed to work for us. So the one thing we all have in common, if we don't already work for the government, is that we need to hold them accountable.
All right, Vijay, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, as always.
Okay, moving on from that, are you thinking of upgrading your car? Well, let's now go to NTD's Shar Marshall, who's going to show us some models offering 0% financing over 72 months.
When considering a new vehicle, paying 0% on a car loan over 72 months can seem like a pretty sweet deal. Here's what RealCarTips.com says about the best 0% deals out there right now. The Ford Mach-E is coming in hot at 480 horsepower with a 0 to 60 time of 3.8 seconds and $750 cash back. It also has hands-free highway driving on 97% of controlled access highways in the US and Canada.
Something to keep in mind is that while they're pushing the 0% APR, they could also be pushing other cash incentives or other discounts. Sometimes they can't be combined, but what can be combined is the EV tax credits, which is dependent on the different vehicle and the different manufacturer.
The Ford Mach-E also has an average manufacturer's suggested retail price under $50,000. That's an estimated $700 a month over 72 months. Also priced under 50 grand is the base model Toyota BZ4X at $48,000 and the Subaru Solterra for almost $50,000, both around $700 a month over 72 months. The BZ4X is almost identical to the Subaru Solterra because both electric SUVs were jointly developed by the two companies. The main difference is that the BZ4X is available with either front or all-wheel drive, but the Solterra is all-wheel drive only. The 2024 Solterra offers features that the 2024 Toyota BZ4X doesn't, like standard driver focus distraction mitigation system and standard eyesight driver assist technologies with traffic jam assist and lane change assist. If you think all of these top-rated models look kinda similar, you're right. Fix says compact SUVs have been the best-selling car segment for the last 5 years. And ending the list is Lexus RZ with good ride and handling balance, premium interior, and eye-catching exterior styling. Priced at $59,823 or around $830 a month at 0% APR. The Volkswagen ID.4 base model will cost you $50,465 or $700 a month, but it's also eligible for the full $7,500 federal tax credit. The rear-wheel drive model produces 282 horsepower, while the all-wheel drive model now has an impressive max 335 horsepower. This increase in power helps to boost acceleration and delivers enhanced range. When looking at a more comprehensive list of 0% APR deals, electric vehicles continue to dominate.
But what's most interesting is that the top 16 deals, 10 of them are electric vehicles. One of them is a hybrid, and all of the ICEs, the cars with engines, they're all trucks and SUVs. So it's a very interesting mix, and you can see that the companies and the dealerships are all pushing for moving those electric vehicles.
Just know that when chasing these deals down, they are often reserved for customers with the best credit rating. Also, read the fine print carefully. Dealers also often offer other cashback incentives and discounts separately from 0% financing deals. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
And Chinese-founded fast fashion retailer Shein is shoring up its business as it plans to go public on the London Stock Exchange. The company revealed that it discovered and addressed 2 cases of child labor in its supply chain. This is on top of dealing with sustainability concerns. Take a look at this.
E-commerce giant Shein released its 2023 sustainability report. In it, it found 2 cases of child labor at its suppliers. Shein's popularity has grown rapidly around the world with its low-priced tops, dresses, and accessories. But the fast fashion firm has faced criticism over its low-cost business model. Shein tightened supplier policy last October after child labor cases were found. In the most recent cases, Shein said it suspended orders from those suppliers who had employed children under 16. The company said both cases had been resolved swiftly. It said the suppliers ended contracts with underage employees and helped return the workers to parents or guardians when necessary. Shein said it would only source from them again after they strengthened their employee process. That would include checking the identity documents of workers. Shein's audits have grown exponentially, from about 600 in 2021 to nearly 4,000 last year. The company has not shared the number of child labor cases, only the percentage of audits that found minors in the workplace. In 2021, it was nearly 2%, and last year it was 0.1%. In Shein's latest report, it said that the company remains vigilant in guarding against violations and will terminate any non-compliant suppliers. Investors will be poring over Shein's report, released just months after the company filed for an initial public offering in London. Shein's CEO said improving its supply chain and managing its carbon footprint were critical areas for the company.
Now, most of us consume U.S. news online, probably from places, like Facebook, for example, or perhaps Google. Well, speaking of Google, the company will now fund Californian newsrooms, and that has some journalists worried. Take a look at this.
In a first-in-the-nation deal, Google will commit $250 million over 5 years to fund newsrooms in California. The public-private deal between the tech giant and the state also includes funding for artificial intelligence, which some journalists have warned poses a threat to their jobs. The agreement ends a battle between Google and state lawmakers on how to fund local newsrooms. Lawmakers will now drop a proposed bill that would have forced companies like Google and Meta to pay news organizations for distributing their content. The bill, known as the California Journalism Preservation Act, was modeled after similar laws implemented in Australia and Canada. It would have funded local news organizations that have seen their business models collapse amid the rise of big tech platforms. Since the bill was introduced last year, Google has ran numerous ads opposing it. It also temporarily blocked content from several California-based news outlets. The bill's author, Oakland Assemblymember Buffy Wicks, also helped broker this latest deal with Google. She said this new agreement is the best way to get money into the hands of news publishers without having to go through the legislative process. But some associations representing news staff criticized the deal, calling it disastrous. The Media Guild of the West, which represents hundreds of journalists and media workers in California, Arizona, and Texas, filed a letter in opposition to the deal. It reads, "The future of journalism should not be decided in backroom deals." The legislature embarked on an effort to regulate monopolies and failed terribly. Another trade association, News Media Alliance, said the announcement, quote, "reinforces the need for federal legislation and potential court remedies to address this broken marketplace." The association, which represents approximately 2,000 news organizations, said Google is a monopoly that reaps significant revenue by scraping and repackaging news content. Several California lawmakers also criticized the agreement. State Senator Steve Glazer said it doesn't provide sufficient resources to rescue independent news gathering in California. However, California Governor Gavin Newsom hailed the agreement and said it will ensure the survival of newsrooms in the state.
And yeah, that's all the stories I have for you guys on today's Business Matters.
Don, you mentioned Fed Chair Jerome Powell speaking in Jackson Hole, Wyoming tomorrow. It's highly anticipated that he's going to announce a rate cut. We don't know that for sure, but I'm wondering how that would affect the economy.
So here's the thing, with rate cuts, there's always a delay from the initial time and when those effects take place. So we're expecting about a 25 basis point or a 1/4 percent point cut from Federal Reserve in the September meeting. So, with that, we might have to wait, 6 months, maybe even longer for a potential impact on the economy. And when we do see that, it could be in the form of lower credit card rates, lower car loan rates, mortgages. So that could save some money for potentially a lot of families in the U.S.
Yeah, and speaking about cars, that story about these robo-taxis, these self-driving cars and all these issues, seems like quite a concerning issue considering how many new electric vehicles, especially self-driving ones, are getting onto the road. So definitely a little...
Yeah. I mean, we've heard about the cruise situation over the past few months, and not all of it has been good. Well, personally, I wouldn't want to be a pedestrian in front of a Cruise GM self-driving car.
Not yet, anyway. Don Ma, thank you so much.
Thank you.